A deal on Dickens, who could resist? A stack of Austen, warmly kissed. Golden Age crime tales twist and turn, every page a treasure to learn. Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea, reading always feels so free.
Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. Just want to do a quick review for a book that I read for my Cozy with the Detection readathon. Now, the rules for that readathon are in the description of this video, but I went with the challenge where you read a book by a Detection Club adjacent mystery author. So this is someone who is invited but did not join. And in the description and also in the Storygraph challenge, I listed a few people: Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Josephine Tey, Georgette Heyer, C.H.B. Kitchen, Margaret Erskine, Nigel Morland, Nancy Spain, Maurice Proctor, and Andrew Garve. So I ended up going with Georgette Heyer. This was my first time reading her, And I chose it honestly because I liked the title. I had been looking for, Behold, Here's Poison, for when it was being considered for a Goodreads reading challenge a couple months ago. But while I was looking for it, I saw Why Shoot a Butler, and I really thought the title was fun, so I had picked it up anyway. And I really like this collection for her country house mysteries. They're really pretty. The text is rather nice. The spacing is rather nice, and it feels really good in the hand. This book is almost 400 pages long, but honestly, it goes really quickly. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I can see why Georgette Heyer is popular, and I will probably check out her romances after I'm finished making my way through her mysteries. I don't normally read romances, but I guess I don't really read modern romances because I think there is an argument for Austen being considered romance, even though I see her more as a social commentary. And you could make an argument for things like Louisa May Alcott's work with Little Women. I haven't read Little Men yet, but Little Women, or with Rose and Bloom also being romance. I guess I have a skewed idea of what romance is. Just because it's not a bodice ripper doesn't mean it's not a romance. Although you could argue also that a lot of mysteries have elements of romance in it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But what Georgette Heyer does very well is building interesting characters, and her writing style is engaging, as is her dialogue. I really ended up I enjoyed the main characters. I had difficulty picking one specific one that I really liked. I think I ended up lighting on the main character, as persnickety as he could be, as well as his aunt. I do wonder, I actually wanted to check something. I forgot to do it before I started the video. Let's see, let me double check something. Okay, I thought so. So I feel like I'm going to need to research whether or not Georgette Heyer had a bull terrier named Bill, because her main heroine, I think I can call her heroine, the main female character, has a bull terrier named Bill. The book I am currently reading by Georgette Heyer, Death in the Stalks, has another female character who's actually in a similar position now that I come to think of it, who also has a bull terrier named Bill. So first of all, I'm wondering, A, if Georgette Heyer has a particular fondness for bull terriers, and B, if she has a bull terrier or had a bull terrier named Bill. if I keep seeing bull terriers named Bill randomly popping up, or maybe not so randomly popping up, as belonging to main female characters, I am going to have to assume that she really either really loved a bull terrier named Bill or she had one. And I wonder if I'll be able to eventually use bull terriers named Bill as an unintentional clue as to whether or not I can trust a character. That would be interesting to see. But yes, I thought as soon as a bull terrier named Bill popped up, I'm like, first of all, I was like, is this the same character? And it's not. Very much not so. But yeah, I thought that was interesting that Bill the Bull Terrier has showed up twice in 2 different books. He's actually the only reoccurring character so far, although I think it's supposed to be 2 different bull terriers named Bill. That's fun. And I think it's particularly noticeable because it's not a dog that I've run into a whole lot in books necessarily. I mean, actually, I can't think of any other book where that I might have read where the female character in particular has a bull terrier. Not that I think I've read really any books with bull terriers, but particularly a female owner is a bit more notable, I feel, especially for, I don't know, it feels like especially for the era. But anyway, the characters in this book are very well drawn out. The basic concept, without really giving anything away, is that your main character, Frank, is I think they actually said he's a criminal lawyer. I know he's a lawyer. He's a barrister. But he ends up finding, he gets lost, headed to his cousin's because she gives him poor directions for a shortcut that's, ends up taking him longer to get where he's going because she gave him not the best directions. But he ends up seeing this car off to the side of the road that he's like, okay, I'm going to ask for directions. The young woman with the car is not very friendly. But when he turns the car around, when she kind of unwillingly gives him directions, he notices when the light of his headlights kind of shines on her car with him turning around, he notices something odd about the driver. He pops out of the car, and in spite of the girl trying to block his view, he finds that the driver is dead. And that sets off the story. That's your main case, or is ostensibly. There is another mystery that underlies the whole story. Now, by the end, I kind of had a pretty good idea of who the murderer was. I think that Georgette Hare does a good job of dropping breadcrumbs without making it feel like it was too obvious by the time you get to the end. Now, to be fair, someone who's better at guessing mystery endings than I am might figure it out sooner. I tend to usually read with a pretty relaxed mind when I'm reading mysteries. Part of it's because I'm used to reading Agatha Christie and I don't usually figure hers out. Part of it because I don't put a whole lot of effort into it because that's my relaxing read. But also, Christie, much like Poirot is told, has a tortuous mind. Georgette Hare, I was going to say it's a straightforward story, but it's got a lot going on there. But it deals with a lot of, like with Christie, she deals with the human aspect of things. Her story is very character-driven. Actually, I think even though Christie's very character-driven, I could argue that even though I like a lot of Christie's characters, you could make a case for Georgette Hare being slightly better at making very in-depth characters. Now, or what I consider to be very in-depth characters, you can give or take how much you think, I think they're pretty in-depth. Now, she writes a longer book than Christie. Christie, I don't think I have a book of Christie's that's almost 400 pages. So Georgette Hare allows herself a lot more room to play with characters, their motivations, their interactions with each other. And while the murder part of the story is very important, it's almost as much or almost more than the murder is that underlying secret, the underlying mystery that actually Frank is almost more interested in than the murder. So yeah, I did really enjoy this. I would recommend it. Yeah, I don't really want to say a whole ton more because I don't want to ruin this for anybody. Because it's part of the enjoyment is seeing if your assumptions are correct, or not your assumptions, if your theories are correct by the end. Things kind of worked out the way I hoped they would. Now, Frank has the typical relationship with the police that you see in a lot of in detective novels with an amateur detective, where it's there is a level of disdain on his part, and he's not above sending the police on a wild goose chase if he feels like a particular officer is going to mess things up. There is a particular police officer in here who he knows will bungle things if he is allowed to know everything. Although he does take one of the police somewhat into his confidence. At least he allows him to help him a bit because he trusts, for the most part, his ability to work with him. Some of the things that happen, unfortunately, do happen because of the relationship between Frank and the police officers. And one wonders if he made more of an effort to be less obnoxious if some of the things wouldn't have happened, because they would have been more inclined to be less touchy and to take him more seriously. I liked some of the random literature references in here. There was a throwaway reference to Emma in here. I want to say there was at least one other throwaway reference, but Emma is the one that came to mind. I feel like there might have been one to Northanger Abbey as well, but that could be an error on my part. But yes, Why Shoot a Butler? It's a nice, fun read. This is one of her standalone novels, so the characters in this will not pop up again. I kind of had a feeling of that when I finished the novel, because I really couldn't see where they could take this character forward, or where she could take this character forward with the way she ended the novel. She could have potentially, but I think that it might have not worked out quite as well. It might have felt a bit awkward. So as much as I enjoyed these characters, I am glad that she decided to let Well Enough alone and let this be a standalone. So yeah, and I'll just give you the back of the cover description. On a dark night, along a lonely country road, barrister Frank Amberley stops to help a young woman in distress and discovers a sports car with a corpse behind the wheel. The girl professes her innocence, and Amberley believes her, at least until he gets drawn into a mystery and the evidence incriminating the young woman begins to add up. Why Shoot a Butler is an English country house murder with a twist. Let's see. Every clue... I'm trying to skip any information that might kind of give more than I want. Every clue complicates the puzzle, and the bumbling police are well-meaning but completely baffled. Fortunately, amateur sleuth Amberley is as brilliant as he is arrogant as he ferrets out the desperate killer, even though this time he's not sure he wants to know the truth. And even though we don't have another book with Frank Amberley, it is implied that he has worked with the police before. and kind of put their back up by his arrogance and the way he treats them. And it is referenced throughout the book that his manners are, he gets chided for his manners quite a bit throughout the book by his cousin, by various other family members and other people that meet him. So it is something that is addressed within the novel in a fun way. So yeah, I think that I've rambled on enough about this. I am really happy to have been able to read Georgette Heyer finally. I've seen her books pop up my recommended many times. I think it's probably her romance that got recommended to me in the past because of my reading Austen and reading books about the Regency era. And so I think I was probably being recommended her Regency romances, which now I kind of want to check out. But this book was written in 1933. So I'm hoping that because she wrote like in the 20s and 30s, I don't know if she wrote as late as the 40s. I'm sure she had to have. But I anticipate at least her romances should be clean, because that, I don't know, I'm hoping that's the case. And because then I'll have quite a bit of books to read from this author if that's the case. And I always like finding a new to me author that I enjoy. So yes, this was a very happy find for me. I have quite a few in this collection now, and I look forward to falling farther down this rabbit hole. So let me know below your favorite Georgette Heyer book if you are a Georgette Heyer fan, whether it is a mystery, a romance, or something else, or if you are now inclined to go check out Georgette Heyer. And hey, if you know whether or not she had a bull terrier named Bill, let me know. Okay, have a very wonderful day. I will see you the next time. God bless. Bye-bye.
Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea. Reading always feels so free.